Hello everyone. My name is Attorney Devin Shanley. I'm with Peterson, Berk Cross. You are joining me from the friendly confines of my office here in Green Bay. And we are doing our first lunch with the lawyer session here on Facebook Live. So again, welcome to everyone who is joining us. A little bit of background. I'm starting a little early. I'm going to let people come in. And so I'll just kind of talk very briefly about what this is and what the format is going to be moving forward. I guess for me, when I was pitching the idea with our social media manager, the concept of LWL came to my mind. This will geek out my parents if they, in fact, get on Facebook and start watching. So back in 7th grade, I had a bad habit of not necessarily doing as much homework as I should. And so my teacher got us put students in such a situation into something called LWL, Lunch with Leon, that my parents still remind me to this day that I did in 7th grade. And I was there probably more than I care to admit. And now I'm going to be 40 tomorrow, and I'm back in LWL, this time for a much more positive reason. So thank you for joining me with Lunch with a Lawyer. The basic idea here is, a lot of times people want to ask lawyers questions. You don't necessarily know how to find a lawyer. You don't know a lawyer. You don't want to pay. Lawyers don't want to talk to you at parties about this stuff because we don't necessarily want to form an attorney-client relationship. So we can teach a little bit about the law in a more informal atmosphere, and I can have lunch. Today's lunch is brought to us by Amanda and Ryan over at Madrid Tapas in Green Bay. It is a fantastic wine bar on Walnut Street. They are still open. They are taking orders. Today's lunch is, I'll stand up and show you. This is lavender beef. We've got artichoke hearts, lamb meatballs, some almonds, and then for dessert, Amanda was really kind and threw in some Valencia-style strawberries. So, as you are probably aware, or maybe you haven't forgotten, if you have, this is your reminder, guys, it's Mother's Day this weekend. So, pro tip, call Amanda and Ryan over at Madrid Tapas, order, they're fantastic, and you will get an amazing meal. I even bought, because it's wine bar, this bottle of wine for my birthday. I'm not going to drink it today because I don't want to get an angry phone call from one of the other attorneys here going, why are you drinking while talking about the law and promoting the firm? So, but it's great. I'm really looking forward to it. Again, the lavender beef, my personal favorite. Very good. The format for today, we're going to talk about an area of law. Today is probate. I'll open it up for questions, and I'll be here as long as there are questions available. So I do want to put out one disclaimer, though. All questions here answered are hypothetical. They're not going to be based upon your facts and circumstances or any particular facts and circumstances other than what might be discussed in the hypothetical itself. If you, in fact, want to talk about your particular purpose and your particular situation, please give us a call at Peterson, Berk Cross at 920-831-0300. Schedule a consultation with either myself or one of the other attorneys here at the firm. We'll be more than happy to help you out and talk you through this problem, because here at Peterson, Berk Cross, we're specializing in you. All right. Hello, Bob. Thank you for the happy birthday. That is very nice. It's 40 for me, so that'll be a thing. So let's talk about probate. One of the common questions I get about probate, people will come up and they'll say, what is it? More often, I get a situation in one of these two scenarios. One is people going, oh, I know all about probate. I got to avoid that. And they may or may not really know what it is. The other is a situation where with a different senior attorney I was working with once, who sent me a random email and said, hey, Devin, what's best caught by this, I've run into people with a lot of different scenarios, but I got an email once from a senior attorney that said, hey, Devin, I got a question for you. A friend of mine's wife just died, and the bank is saying he needs something called a letter of domiciliary. Could you just send over a copy of that for me, and I'll complete it and send it on, and that'll be great. Thanks. And I was like, yeah. A letter of domiciliary is something issued from the court to say that the personal representative has authority over the state. That person's going to have to start full probate. I did not receive any more emails. But a lot of people have a lot of questions about this. It's a very scary thing. So I wanted to talk about what it is in a very general sense, and then see if there are any questions about the process or maybe some other legal issues that I might know about. So probate, if we're going to start knowing anything, a good place to start is going to be the Black's Law Dictionary. This is put out by Thomson West, a very, very fine company. It's kind of the standard for a lot of general legal definitions. This one is read as follows. Probate, the judicial procedure by which a testamentary document is established to be a valid will, proving the will to the satisfaction of the court. Like most lawyers, whenever we deal with a legal situation, we tend to like parts of things and hate parts of things. That's my relationship with this definition of probate. I like the fact that they call it a judicial procedure. It is absolutely that. I don't like that they say that it's focused completely on testamentary documents. A will needs to be proven by a court. It needs to be submitted to a court and validated by the probate court. Absolutely. But when you're actually going to deal with a probate, you're going to find that the actual submission of the will and proof of the will is going to be the shortest part. You might not even know it happened. A lot of times, especially if you hire an attorney, it'll be packed in with the application, tucked in, filed, and then you're going. Really, probate is going to be about a few other things that are happening at the same time. The way I would define it is that probate is going to be a set of procedures that are set up to deal with a very particular kind of set of problems that come together when some basic facts all knot together into the same thing. What are those problems? Well, they get down to three basic facts or problems that come together. Let's say facts. Fact one, dead people have no rights. Dead people don't buy things, dead people don't sell things, dead people don't vote, except maybe in Chicago. But other than that, dead people have no rights. They are, in fact, dead. Hi, Amanda. The lunch is fantastic, by the way. Fact two, not everyone is kind enough to die penniless. A lot of times I say this and people go, oh my gosh, well, dying penniless is terrible. Dying penniless might not actually be terrible. And it might be okay for your loved ones because they, in fact, have a lot less paperwork to do. If you die penniless, we don't really need to figure out a whole lot of stuff about how to close the books and how to move on, legally speaking. We can just kind of say it's that's what happens. Fact three, as a society, we don't really approve of Viking funerals. What do I mean by that? Well, if you know history, a Viking funeral is basically something akin to this. We take all of your worldly possessions, or when a Viking king died, they would take all of their worldly possessions, they would put it all onto a boat, they'd send it off to, I'll say the bay, because the Great Bay of Green Bay is right by my office, and then they lit the whole thing on fire. We as a society tend not to like that. When grandma dies and the house that she's lived in for 40 years, we're not just going to burn it down, salt the land, and let it lay fallow for 7 generations. We want the house. We want the dead person's stuff. We don't want that sort of waste to occur. But dead people don't give away things. Dead people don't sell things. They are dead. So how exactly do we take property from dead people and get it to living people? That is probate. It's a set of procedures so that we can honor the deceased person's wishes. We can make sure that creditors of the deceased person get paid. We can make sure that the people that we're going to get the stuff, either by law or by wish of the decedent, the dead person, get their stuff. And we need to figure out a way that that's all going to happen. And that's a court process. The court creates something called a probate estate. They appoint somebody to manage it called the personal representative, or if you like traditional language, the executor, or if you like really traditional language and you were in fact a woman, the executrix. In Wisconsin, we call it the personal representative. And that is done on those timelines. Now, one of the other attorneys here asked a great question, and two great questions. Let's say three great questions. Do you want to avoid probate? If so, why? And how? Well, let's talk about the first question of how to avoid probate, because that seems to be the driving question. That's going to be the simplest to answer in a very generalized sense. How you avoid probate is you don't have the way attorneys that practice this are going to divide this is going to be in assets that are going to be considered non-probate and assets that are going to be considered probate. Non-probate assets are specific assets that are handled in some sort of operation of law. Things that are jointly titled. If husband dies and husband and wife had everything, all of their liquid cash in a joint checking account, wife doesn't need to figure out who gets that money because she does. In jointly titled property, when a joint owner dies, the other joint owners just continue to have more of a percentage of the interest in the property. You can use life insurance. Life insurance, we don't need to figure out who gets the life insurance proceeds 80% of the time because it says on the life insurance who gets it. The life insurance company cuts a check. They say, here you go, goodbye. If we have some sort of controversy in that, typically what happens is some sort of interpleader action. The life insurance company gets 2 or 3 people that might have a valid claim to it, in which they'll go, I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to sue you, I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to give all the money to the court, and then I'm going to say, goodbye, everybody, peace out, and they're gone. And then the court can figure out who gets the money. They've just delivered their money, and they've moved on. That happens sometimes. Trusts are another way you can avoid property. I'll probably do one of these on trusts. I'll probably do a more robust seminar on trusts. Right now, just trust me when I say trusts avoid probate. You can have what I call pay on death designations. Anytime you hear somebody say, would you like a beneficiary designation on that? What that typically says is, when I die, pay this money to this person. At that point, we don't really need to have a will to figure out who gets the money. You've told it and made the arrangements with the banking institution to be able to pay that out in that fashion. Then we can get into some other more nuanced versions, but that's going to be basically it. Probate assets are going to be, or probate property is going to be any property that you have that is in fact not non-probate property. So if you do nothing, or if you have some sort of asset that you can't just put some sort of pay on death designation or own jointly or something along those lines, it's probably going to end up being it's probably going to be probate property. The most classic example in this, or there are two that I see all the time. The first is going to be bank accounts where somebody doesn't put a pay on death designation on it, or it's not owned jointly. If grandma had a bank account, she didn't talk with the banker, and she doesn't have a pay on death designation on that thing, and all of a sudden there's $200,000 in the bank account, you're going to have probate. They're going to freeze that asset until they have a letter of domiciliary and proof that a probate is happening. Another one is the house. Houses tend to be more than what is going to be in a smaller estate. So, if nobody retitles the house, no one does anything with it. You own houses until the end of time, the end of our government, or Jesus comes back. And so, as a result, that ownership in the house will survive your death, and that will cause a probate to occur as well if you don't do anything about it. Why would you want to probate? Do you want to, and if so, why? That's going to depend upon what you want to do. Anytime that you have an asset or a situation, you're going to need to look at your life, and you're going to need to figure out, how exactly do I want this property to be managed? Do I just want to give property to somebody and say, there you go, here's the money, don't spend it all on candy, but I trust you, goodbye. I'm dead, I don't care. If that's the case, you probably do want to avoid probate. Probate can be a little bit slower, there's a lot more work to it, and there are nonprofit transfers for nearly everything that you can imagine, and really everything once you throw in a trust that can hold just about any kind of property you'd ever want, and be able to handle that very quickly and easily. If you have a situation, though, where, let's say, your son, we'll call him Frank, let's say Frank has got a problem with, let's say, nose candy. You can't give Frank a whole bunch of money on a Friday, because if by Monday he might not be alive anymore, he'd just party too much. If that's the case and you need to manage money over the course of time, then you're probably going to need to have something that can actually manage money over the course of time where you can put restrictions on that. A probate can do that. A trust can do that. And sometimes it might be more cost effective for you to form that trust out of your will, which means you're going to want your property going through probate. That might be a solution. To know what that's going to be for you and in your circumstance, I highly, highly recommend talking to an attorney about that. Is it better to transfer assets like a home prior to death? Generally, yes. In Wisconsin, there's a very easy way to do that. There are two easy ways to do that. One is through joint ownership in property. The other is something called a transfer on death deed. Joint ownership in property is fine if you really trust your joint owner. You don't want to co-own property with somebody you don't trust or someone that's going to not be trustworthy. If you don't trust them but you want them to get it after death, then using a transfer on death deed is something that can be done as well. You're probably going to want to talk to an estate planning attorney if you're going to have one of those drafted up. My mom hasn't updated her will since her dad died. If she passed away, would this cause problems for my brother and I going through probate? Okay. Hypothetical, if a parent dies and they haven't updated their will, would this cause problems for the children? I don't know. The best way I can answer this is talking about, this is going to be an estate planning question rather than specifically probate, but the two areas of law go hand in hand. The best way I can explain it to you is a bit like this. A good estate plan is a reflection of your life. It's kind of like your favorite shirt. Everybody has their favorite shirt. You wear it and you just feel different. You feel more confident. You feel ready to face the world. It's not just clothing that fits around your body. It's an expression of who you are and what you're trying to show the world that you are. Your clothes and how you wear them will change. I work better in suits. Just do. I feel more like a lawyer than when I'm rolling around in a t-shirt and jeans and sweatshirt. Just kind of the way I am. Now, what you don't want your estate plan to be is that shirt. Everybody has that shirt. That shirt is the shirt where you close your eyes and you reach into the back of your closet and you pull it out and you go, oh my God, because you have that shirt. And you say that for one of three reasons. One, the shirt is ugly. You don't know why brown and yellow came together in a paisley, but there it is on that shirt and you own it. Two, it does not fit. You don't know when your body looked like whatever it looked like when you wore that shirt, but it doesn't look like that anymore. Or three. Both answers 1 and 2. Either way, that shirt is testimony against you, saying that life has changed you without you even knowing it. That's what happens to our estate plans, especially when you have a parent where the mom and dad come together and they say, oh my gosh, I got to take care of my kids. And so they form this very particular will drafted very much around the idea of protecting the kids. We're going to name guardians. We're going to put in testamentary trusts. We're going to manage this money until they're 30. And then the kids get like 40. And the will might work. I mean, then it just says, I don't know, give it away to them equally, and that's fine. In which case, that might be fine. Or it might not. And it might appoint people that are dead or not going to do their job anymore. There's going to be a lot of ifs in there. I would definitely say if it's been that long a time period, it's worth a review, particularly after a spouse dies, just to kind of look at it and say, you know, maybe it's time to update this. Maybe we should trust the kids more. Maybe we should have this person in charge or that person in charge or this sort of contingency. So it's a great opportunity for that. We are at about 19 minutes. I'm not seeing any more questions. I want to thank everyone for participating and joining us. I want to thank Amanda and Ryan over at Madrid Tapas. I'm once again going to show my lovely plate of food and put in one more reminder. Guys, if you want to look awesome this Mother's Day, call them and order some very nice dinner or very nice food and bring it home. It would be amazing. Please join us next week as well. We'll be sending out reminders and talking about the topic. And I look forward to it. Thank you again for joining. And remind you, at Peterson, Berk Cross, we're specializing in you.